Uncharted 2 is known as one of the best third-person shooters of all time, but what if I took the shooting out of the game and played without guns? Unlike my Uncharted 4 video where I chose the pacifist route, I will be taking out enemies, but for this challenge, I'm not allowed to use any weapon that adds to this shots fired stat. That includes guns, crossbows, launchers, and zingers.
You couldn't find your own ass with both hands.
And a map.
This basically means I can only use fists and grenades. Though, as a rule of thumb, I try to only resort to grenades when an enemy was impossible to reach or absolutely could not be killed with fists. And I'm playing a new game on hard, no glitches. So let's see how many bullets it takes to beat Uncharted 2.
You got the framing right?
Gotcha, bro.
Alright.
Last
framing
words?
good? Love you, boys.
I started off on the edge of this train and I climbed my way out. I was rewarded with some interesting flashbacks and found this 9mm pistol, which I ignored. But minutes into my playthrough, I was faced with a lock. I couldn't go around it and had literally no other options, so I had to take the gun and shoot it. I reloaded my save and double checked this was necessary, but I also discovered that the shots fired stat I was going to use for tracking was synced to my PSN account, so reloading a save or even deleting the save file altogether wouldn't reset this. So I still used it to determine what would count as a shot, but for the total number of shots, it became useless immediately. The first chapter didn't have much else, and I then cut back to 4 months earlier.
Feel a lot better if I had a gun. We won't need them.
Exactly, Nate, and that is why Flynn is a villain. We snuck into this museum, and I took out a bunch of the guards.
Which window? There's a lot of bloody windows.
I don't know, dude, the one you're heading towards. Flynn did not appreciate this comment, and he promptly killed me. I came to this room with 4 guards where Flynn gave me a tranq gun, and I quickly learned how bad the stealth mechanics were in this part. I tried many times to choke the guards out, but I somehow always got caught, and Flynn wouldn't help out unless I shot first. I was forced to use 2 shots here, while Flynn took out the other 2 guards. I climbed up this rope, and of course, as soon as I reached the top, I was frozen in place. A guard was triggered to spawn in, and I couldn't move or do anything except tranquilize him and take a shot. I had to then climb outside on the roof, and going on these bars, I was frozen again with no way around. The game was obsessed with forcing me to ruin the challenge, and I had to take one more shot here. We climbed into this window, and Flynn was not a fan of how I found the next clue.
I can't believe you've done this.
So I ended up spending a few months in a Turkish prison.
How you doing, kid?
Extremely healthy and normal. Sully and Chloe came to see me, and then we headed to Borneo. Sully and I snuck through the jungle and I stealth killed a few guys, but this area had 6 enemies that were much tougher without stealth. Eventually, I killed them all with fists, and Sully even chipped in. Then, I needed to set up some bombs around this enemy camp. This was my first big challenge of the game because it was such an open area. I took advantage of cover, and anytime an enemy popped out of a corner, I took them out quickly and got back into cover. Sully even helped out by killing a few guys on this ledge. We climbed out of the camp, and Nate made sure to objectify Sully on the way out.
You got a great ass, Sully.
Thanks.
My gun got knocked away shortly after this, and I was forced to use fists. Oh no! Anyway, since the game wanted a tutorial on hand-to-hand combat, now is a good time to point out a few key things for combat in this challenge. The fistfight animations are very hit or miss, and it's mostly luck if they're drawn out or end in a few punches. If you sneak up on an enemy, you can break their neck quickly or pull them into cover and quietly kill them. Even though this was a little inconsistent, it usually worked in my favor, so stealth kills were ideal. Elevated platforms were also key, as it was easy to insta-kill enemies by pulling them off a ledge or jumping off something and kicking them in the face. Punching normal enemies on stairs also allowed Drake to hit a quick uppercut and insta-kill them. So I took out these chumps in the water and continued. I reached this camp area and got some grenades, which the game forced me to throw 2 of right away. Enemies kept spawning in here, and I had to use a few more grenades to help Sully from getting overrun and to take out this guy in the tower. After clearing them, we found a hidden trail of blood with some bodies, this dagger, and then Chloe played double agent and helped me escape. Our map took us to Nepal, and a truck quickly chased me down. I got a prompt to run and gun, and literally no other buttons worked except R2 to shoot. But if I just barely pressed R2, Nate didn't shoot. Unfortunately, the truck ran me over if I didn't shoot enough, so I found that 15 bullets was the minimum I could get it to stop with. I took a nice stroll through Nepal, and I stealthily took out a few guys in the street.
That's your neck.
I then had to fight a bunch of soldiers, and this was rough because there were so many, but luckily I managed to lure them to this specific ladder.
This will make a fine addition to my collection.
Until a machine gun truck came and started shooting at me. At first I was worried, but after surviving for long enough, Chloe took it out with an RPG. And the game continues its streak of being hornier than I remembered.
Well, it is an ass worth saving.
Is that an ancient Tibetan ritual dagger in your pocket?
Oh, maybe I'm just happy to see you.
In a war zone? I climbed over this ledge to get past the locked door and I got destroyed, but then realized if I hid and waited, these guys would shoot the lock and let Chloe in so I could take cover. I took out the guys moving through the door and used a couple grenades on the snipers above since Chloe was useless here.
Boy, it's a shame you have to sit on something that big.
Nate, enough. Have some decorum. To progress in this building, I needed to destroy a plank, but luckily I found out I could use a grenade to do this.
Grenade!
You're fine. Outside, we came to a hotel surrounded by soldiers, and Chloe and I took these chumps out. I jumped on this machine gunner as soon as he spawned, but the rest were standard enemies, so this part was okay. Once we got inside the hotel, I saw a heavy type soldier, but I was able to stealth kill him, so I quickly broke his neck. I got separated from Chloe, but I kept climbing up.
I swear to God, if there's a zombie around the next corner.
Separated from a girl in an elevator shaft and having to go alone in a hotel to turn on the power does sound familiar. I broke more planks with a grenade and fought a few guys to restore the power and reunite with Chloe. On the rooftops, this helicopter started shooting at us and it was exploding the entire building. But it didn't stop there because even inside, I was not safe.
What you say?
We got to another rooftop and Chloe decided to be useless once again, so I had to resort to grenades. I managed to get this down to just one grenade by tossing a gas canister across and then a grenade. The chopper appeared after I dropped down, and my only method of taking it out was with a grenade launcher, which sadly did count towards shots fired, and it took 14 shots to take down the helicopter.
Down she goes!
I promptly bashed my skull into the closest wall as punishment for using 14 shots, and I was so out of it, but I met Elena and this guy.
Whoa, it's all right, Chloe. They're journalists.
My name is Jeff.
We were ambushed by a few soldiers I had to take out, but using fists here was simple enough. After going through this gate, I needed to blow up a few cars to use as a path, and this was super frustrating because the game wanted me to shoot these propane tanks to blow up the cars. Sure enough, as soon as I walked through this gate, I couldn't use grenades. So the game forced my hand by making me shoot, but I had a secret weapon.
Propane and propane accessories.
And accurately throwing them was hard because they bounce around and would never be where I wanted them to go. On top of that, the game made them despawn if my camera looked away and I couldn't reposition them in the water. So I needed to toss all 6 propane tanks perfectly while keeping the ones I had already thrown in my camera so they wouldn't despawn. This was super frustrating and took quite a few tries. Literally like 30 minutes. But eventually, I got the propane tanks between the 2 cars set up just right, and with one single shot, I was able to knock both cars down to create a path. We went across the water and I was rewarded with this small area full of enemies, including a mounted machine gun where 3 guys were grouped up and I had no grenades, so I was a bit screwed. I tried to throw a propane tank into that area, but I discovered if an enemy grenade blew that up, it didn't damage the other enemies. However, when I killed the enemy throwing grenades, I was able to pick up 2 grenades and use one to take out this big group camping with the machine gun. Except this kind of broke my rule of only using grenades when enemies were unreachable, so I did manage to jump off these sandbags and get a few quick kicks in to take these guys out. More guys spawned in, but they were no issue, despite everyone else's insistence on being as useless as possible.
Yeah, thanks for the input, Jeff.
So we made it through and reached this temple. Inside, I picked up 3 more grenades and had to do some frustratingly slow puzzles with Chloe before falling into this death trap. There was an MP40 down here to shoot the gears and stop it, but luckily I had some grenades to blow them up instead. Chloe and I had to solve another puzzle, and at one point I was left hanging. The game gave me infinite ammo at this point, but I couldn't move at all, and I couldn't get a good angle with the grenade, and killed myself or missed on every throw. Luckily, when I aimed a gun and threw a grenade, it worked, and after spamming them, I was able to break open this eye and continue. We made it to the bottom of this area and found a map that would take us straight to Shambhala. Hey Nate, have you seen my marker? Oh.
Which means...
Dude! Some of Lazarevich's men were in the chamber on the way out, and man were they unobservant. Especially the sniper who didn't see us even after his friend shot at us and called us out. Escaping was no issue and I breezed through. This outdoor part was pretty annoying though, and there were 2 snipers perched in windows above me that I had to use grenades for, since my allies refused to take them out. And I also had to use one more grenade for this guy on the balcony.
Let's move!
Jeff got shot, and even though he was completely useless in the last section, he was also useless here. I had to pull him along, and as a result, I moved slowly and couldn't do anything besides shoot, which meant I was basically a pacifist for this whole section. Unfortunately for Jeff, Lazarevich was not. And after that, we made a quick getaway.
You alright?
Yeah, never better. You?
Nothing I won't heal.
Am I a joke to you? I needed to get Chloe, so I had a train to catch.
Gotta get a gun.
False. Stealth killing enemies sometimes gives extra supplies like grenades, so I stealth killed all these guys.
It's all clear.
Elena picked up a gun from this fire escape.
Hey, look what I found!
Cool, Elena. Can you find the target next time and actually hit something? Like, let's pretend to be useful at least. Anyway, I needed to break these planks that were blocking a door, and I could only blow them up after jumping to the sign, which meant I couldn't climb down to grab an extra grenade. A few enemy groups appeared at this point, and I had 3 grenades left, which I spent forever on trying to kill this first group. I tried for so long to get these 3 guys walking through a doorway with 1 grenade, but no matter where I threw it or how perfectly I timed it, it was impossible. Even worse, Elena suddenly had godlike aim, but couldn't do any damage to this sniper. After all that, even more guys spawned in to taunt me. I literally spent hours on this part trying to figure out the optimal strategy here with grenades, and Elena didn't help at all with these first 7 guys, but for some reason, she was able to shoot this final guy, so I at least saved 1 bullet there. Ultimately, I used 2 shots. One to blow up this propane tank, and another to take out this sniper. The remaining pairs I killed with grenades, and Elena randomly shot this one guy, which I still don't understand why she couldn't take out any of the other enemies, but hey, I'll take it. On my way to board the train, I had to defend myself for a couple minutes and had plenty of ammo and grenades, but I ended up just being a pacifist and hiding in this corner like a little baby. This worked surprisingly well, and I could avoid the snipers and shotgun guys until I jumped on the train. Luckily, most of the first train chapter was simple enough, and I could either punch guys or push them off the train. I had to move slowly, but it was all very possible. Unfortunately, there was a scripted part where I had to pick up an RPG and shoot this helicopter before it mowed me down, and that added 1 shot to my count. After this, there was a lock I had to shoot to go through a door. I couldn't use grenades or go around, so 1 more shot added here. I had to fight more enemies and slowly made my way up the train. Eventually, this heavy with the machine gun appeared, and I couldn't jump over to him. I needed to shoot the clasps holding these logs together, and I was able to use a couple grenades to loosen them up and send him on his way down the mountain. This brought me to the worst part of this challenge. I was forced to shoot down the helicopter that was stalking me, and it was not easy. The machine gun here was inaccurate, it seemed to do no damage, and I was essentially locked in place. After trying this multiple times, I consistently was able to take the helicopter down with 220 shots added to my shots that made contact stat. I assumed this would be lower than total shots fired because I missed so many shots, but since the machine gun shoots 2 shells at a time, total shots fired only increased by 1 for every 2 shots that made contact. Based on this, I think the minimum with perfect accuracy should be about 110 shots fired, but after many attempts, the best I could get it down to was 157 shots fired. Not a great number, but compared to 220, I was pretty happy with it. After, I reached this mini-boss that kept yelling at the other guys and the chopper to attack me. I tried hand-to-hand combat and he was not dying. I worried I would need to do something else, but eventually I was able to knock his helmet off and punch him out. Except he didn't die and Chloe shot him, so maybe guns were the way to go.
Do you know what kind of train this is? It's a Baldwin 284 S3 class Berkshire type steam locomotive.
Following that last section, the next chapter name is a perfect metaphor for how this challenge is going. After climbing up the train wreck, I stealth killed all these guys in the snow.
I'm either gonna bleed out or I'm gonna climb out.
This winter section was so goofy because the enemies had the object permanence of a rock. I eventually climbed out and collapsed. I made it to the small village where I met my rescuer Tenzin and a man named Carl Schaefer who gave me an exposition dump.
70 years ago, I came here just like you. I was hired to find the entrance to Shambhala.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you.
We don't care.
Then Tenzin and I headed off to the ice caves.
Don't suppose you speak any English, do you, pal?
Things took a dark turn when we found some dead wolves, and I had to break through some icicles to progress, which took 4 bullets. Then we came across a Yeti monster, and I had to shoot it 3 times to get it off Tenzin. Oh boy, this fight took so many attempts. I was armed with nothing but this pistol, and my fists were useless against this monster, who could quickly kill me. I eventually broke down the fight to 3 phases. Phase 1 could be done in 5 shots. This triggered the Yeti to grab Nate, and I had to shoot it 2 times in the face so it would drop me. Phase 2 was then 5 more shots, at which point the Yeti stopped and grabbed its face. Phase 3 was then a couple more shots until the Yeti picked up Nate and the gun fell away, but Tenzin saved me. Somehow, I was able to get through Phase 3 without the additional 2 shots fired. I did this by mistake and got it down to 12 shots total, which I was very happy with. Tenzin and I continued, and after spending a couple hours on this tedious fight to trim down a few bullets, the game taunted me. All that suffering to shoot a crate. Okay. Tenzin and I made it to this next area where we solved some puzzles.
Tenzin! Pull that switch!
Oh, so now he knows English. My brain was complete mush for this part, and I mentally couldn't handle all the jumping around. Of course, right before we got out of the caves, 2 Yetis spawned in while we waited for this elevator. I didn't have to shoot at either of them, and Tenzin did a good job of fending them off. Unfortunately, I did have to shoot this Yeti on the elevator before it pulled me off. I waited until after it hit me, and then I could knock it off with 4 shots. Meanwhile, the village was under attack by Lazarevich's men, and this was rough, because if I ran out to punch someone, I would get swarmed with gunfire. I let my allies take them on, and Tenzin was a one-man army. These other guys were kinda there too. I moved forward from this first area once it was clear, and the second area was even tougher, and I had to kill all of the enemies to progress. I took advantage of covered spots because there were so many enemies, I'd get gunned down instantly. There was another part with an RPG guy above me who I needed to kill with a grenade. Another section had 2 guys with grenade launchers and a riot shield gunman on top of like 15 other enemies, which was rough.
Call an ambulance! Call an ambulance! But not for me!
To top it all off, the chapter ended with a tank.
Why would he bring a tank?
Dude, I don't know either. This part involved running from a tank, punching a few guys, and more running.
RPG! It's the bet for RPG.
Ah, there we go. At the end of this section, the game gave me an RPG, which I assumed I needed to shoot the tank with. I tried throwing all my grenades, but they did nothing, so I had to shoot 3 rockets with the RPG to take out the tank. Elena and I took off, and I had to jump from truck to truck until I landed on one with a grenade launcher. Some trucks shot at me from behind, and I could mostly ignore them, except for the ones trying to bump Elena off the road. I had to use 5 shots to take out the first truck, and 5 more for the second one. We kept driving until this random guy with an RPG shot us.
There's no way they survived that.
You're never gonna believe this. We climbed up this mountain.
Nice view.
Oh my god! I thought this was a classy party.
I came to a heavily fortified area with a machine gun across the water. I stayed in cover here and slowly took out the first side. I crossed to take out the other side, and after doing so, even more guys spawned in. The game wanted me to hop on the machine gun, which was not happening. These guys were crossing the bridge, and my thought was to kick them off as they climbed over, but there were too many for this to work. This final part took so many tries because of the number of soldiers, there was little good cover, and there were a ton of heavies with shotguns and 2 snipers on the other side. Eventually, I came up with the strategy to use this ledge, which didn't have as many good angles for the enemy to attack, so I could pull them off one by one. I could still be shot here and died many times to a shotgun blast to the face, but eventually I pulled every one of them off the ledge with no bullets and no grenades.
I'll try to find another way around.
Just try to be subtle.
I picked off some guys in this tower and eventually made it through. At this bridge there was a guy with an RPG and a ton of strong enemies. I used the tried and true ledge method and just pulled these guys to their deaths.
Eat some of that!
I crossed the bridge and more guys spawned in the tower right in front of me. Thank God there was a checkpoint here or I would have been fuming. I had to use a grenade to take out this one guy up top because Elena refused to help. and unfortunately I needed to cross a bridge, but it was infested with snipers that would kill me if I attempted to cross. So I needed 7 shots to kill all of these snipers. I waited for the remaining enemies to cross this bridge and took them out with fists. And Elena got a clean double kill here, making these guys fall to their deaths. The final guy would not cross the bridge, and if I attempted to cross, he killed me every time, so I took him out with a grenade.
That's the last of them.
The next area was brutal because on top of about 10 enemies, there were 5 snipers, all spread out and all out of reach. I killed 3 snipers with my 3 remaining grenades. I had to use 2 shots for the remaining snipers, but the rest of these guys I could take out with my bare fist. After spending forever completing this part, I realized I probably could have picked up an extra grenade, so I would have 4 for this section, but I didn't have the energy to restart the whole chapter when I first played it. So later I went back to the beginning of the chapter, and in the tower section right before this, I found a box with 2 grenades, so I could have started this section with 4 grenades, and I replayed it, only taking 1 shot. I cleared a few more enemies in this hallway, and we got to this building where the doors automatically shut behind us.
Oh, crap.
This next room was brutal. There were 2 guys with rocket launchers above, and there were guys with armor and shotguns. With so much open space, it was tough. For them. Once I made it to the next room, Schaefer died. Though, admittedly, I kind of forgot about him with all the combat I was doing for the past few chapters.
You are right. Everything you touch does turn to shit.
Anyway, I went alone to get the dagger back. This first group I was able to mostly sneak by and open this gate, which led me to an area with 2 machine gun guys, and I couldn't melee either of them, so I needed all 4 grenades I had, plus an extra grenade I picked up to kill them both. Also, this jump to get to the next area was kinda hard for me to do, and I managed to kill myself after clearing the enemies. After many attempts of this jump, I finally made it. And then climbed up to find Flynn, Lazarevich, and Chloe. No way, he's watching one of my videos. I had to do a little puzzle before finding the entrance I was looking for, which had multiple enemies and a machine gunner. My strategy was to pick them off one by one, but eventually I stealth killed a couple and rushed the machine gun guy, who was the biggest nuisance. I got killed shortly after taking him out, and the game gave me a very generous checkpoint, so I didn't even need to kill them all. More soldiers appeared, and I killed these 2 guys above me with a grenade since there was an extra one lying around, and I couldn't climb up to them anyway. We found the entrance to Shambhala, and we saw more of Lazarevich's men get taken out. We had to fight our way through more of his guys, and then we climbed up this rope to the next area.
Hope there's nothing scary at the top.
Nope, 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 nope. We met up with Lazarevich, and Nate did not think this through.
Stay back!
Okay.
I was forced to go with Flynn and open the entrance to Shambhala. Along the way, I got to hear some nice banter between these 2.
Oh look, it's a life-size statue of your ego. Statue of your mom. Son of a bitch!
I solved this puzzle, but the Yeti monsters showed up and Flynn gave me a gun. I was worried I would have to use some bullets, but luckily I just needed to survive long enough for Lazarevich to burst in and kill them.
What, Jeff?
And I would have gotten away with it too if it hadn't been for you meddling kids.
I want him to see Shambhala and die knowing that I have taken it from him.
Not gonna lie, this made no sense to me, but I supported the dedication to being a massive hater. Luckily, the Yeti guys burst out of nowhere and started shooting at us, so I made a quick getaway. Chloe wanted to escape, but Nate and Elena wanted the Chintamani stone, which I'm kinda with Chloe on this one, but okay. More of the strong Guardian enemies spawned, and unfortunately, they're not punchable and they can shoot, so keeping my distance didn't help. I tried to run past this area, but when I did, Elena got insta-killed, so I had to clear the area. I attempted this part so many times because the Guardians constantly moved and shot at me, but I managed to hit them with 2 grenades when I grouped them together. For the 3rd guy that spawned in, I used 3 grenades, which was definitely too much, but it took so many tries to even kill him, so I went ahead anyway. Also, it wasn't until this section I discovered that restarting a checkpoint after clearing an area respawned all the grenade drops so I could refill on grenades. But I couldn't destroy the sap with a grenade, and sadly I did have to use 1 shot to clear it. Also, I later decided that even though it's not technically a glitch, I didn't want to exploit checkpoints like that, so I didn't use any of these grenades. I had to use 4 shots total in a short period to clear a bunch of sap, but there was no other way around it.
Wait, that looks familiar.
No way, it's the Eiffel Tower. We came across this gate, and even though I knew how to open it, Chloe and Elena refused to help until I murdered all of these soldiers. I had 4 grenades going into this part and needed all 4 for this machine gun heavy and 1 more for the RPG guy above me, but I did feel scummy using the 4 grenades I picked up by restarting a checkpoint earlier, so I opted to just leave behind 4 grenades. There were 6 grenades on stones around, and I could get 2 more by stealth killing 2 of these guys, so after using 5 grenades, I still had 3 remaining. After taking out all of Lazarevich's guys, 2 guardians spawned in at the end, and I was worried because I thought I would need to use all of my remaining grenades, but Chloe and Elena suddenly became super helpful with taking them out, so I only used 1 more grenade here. I opened the gate, and this next area had me drop down into some running water, and there were a ton of armored guys, a grenade launcher, some snipers, and I didn't have much cover. If I got a perfect start here, I could stealth kill 2 of these 3 soldiers, and they would both drop grenades. This meant I could restock to 4 grenades, and the remaining soldiers all targeted Chloe and Elena, so I took advantage of this to stealth kill them quickly from behind. More guys spawned in, but I was able to handle all of them and not use any of my grenades. So now, back to 4 grenades, I was feeling much better. We made it to this giant room with guardians and soldiers, and I mostly let them pick each other off. After all the soldiers died, Elena and Chloe killed the final guardian in the first wave, and then 3 more spawned in. 2 of them stood next to each other, so I could kill both with 2 grenades. The final one, Elena and Chloe wouldn't kill, but I only needed 1 grenade for it. This meant I only used 3 grenades here, but I also picked up 3 grenades from the dead soldiers, so this balanced out perfectly, and I left the area with 4 grenades. Finally, after all that work, we made it to the stone room. And of course, Flynn had an insanely goofy I'm not him moment that accomplished nothing.
We all die, you either kill yourself or get killed.
Look, I hate to be that guy, but why didn't he just throw it at Nate? Is he stupid? And I still don't get his beef. We got to this outdoor path, and there were a ton of armored guys. I took advantage of this ledge and some ruins to quickly take out the enemies. Finally, it was time to face Lazarevich, and I was ready.
He's mine.
Sorry, pal. You're not my type.
I came into this fight with 4 grenades, but suddenly I only had 1. I started the fight anyway and picked up 2 more grenades in the area, but this wasn't enough to take down Lazarevich. After replaying the previous chapter, the final boss battle still forced my inventory to contain 1 grenade, an assault rifle, and a pistol. At this point, I knew I was going to need to shoot at least a few bullets, since I also couldn't punch him, and there were 4 stages to this fight. The grenades were useful and I blew up the sap, but since I only had 3 grenades to work with here, I needed plenty of pistol bullets to blow up sap. Ultimately, I used 11 shots to take down Lazarevich.
How many men have you killed?
A few. And just like that, I've completed another chapter. Nope, I had to run across this bridge to the finish, and Chloe got grabbed by a guardian. Like, how did she not notice? He's right behind me, isn't he? This thing was a major pain, and the minimum I could get it down to was 9 shots to kill the guardian. And now, we finally made it to the end. Elena survived, and Sully went off to do... I don't want to know what.
You're a dirty old man, Sullivan.
Another challenge down with a lot of bullets, 265 to be exact, but it just goes to show how much this game relies on gunplay. And if you're curious to see the full gameplay for how I beat some of these chapters, be sure to check out my proof video, which I'll link in the description below. I'm Epic Cakes Gaming, please subscribe, and be sure to check out my challenge videos for other games like The Last of Us, Uncharted 4, and Grand Theft Auto 5. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.